Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Emma, and today we've got a topic that's, well, super important if you're in the workplace, or really any professional setting. Isn't that right, Mike?
Hi, everyone. Absolutely, Emma.
Yes, effective communication at work isn't just about saying the right words. It's about how you say them, knowing when to listen, and yeah, even how to, read the room. Today, we're diving deep into what it really takes to communicate well with colleagues, managers, and clients.
Right? And honestly, good communication can totally change your work experience. We're talking about everything from the emails you write to how you present ideas in meetings. It's those little moments, like the casual chats by the coffee machine, that can actually make or break your workplace relationships.
Exactly. So, in today's episode, we'll be covering some really practical stuff, like professional vocabulary that'll help you come across as competent and confident. Plus, we'll dive into some specific phrases for meetings, emails, and, some of those more informal interactions too.
Oh, yeah. And let's not forget the non-verbal side of things. Body language, eye contact, all those subtle cues that, say a lot without words. It's amazing how much those little things can impact how people perceive you at work.
Exactly. So stick around for tips, some real-life scenarios, and, we even have a guest today, a communication expert who's faced some real-world challenges in the workplace. You don't want to miss their insights.
All right. So grab your coffee or tea, settle in, and let's get into the world of effective workplace communication.
Key phrases.
All right. Before we dive deeper, let's start with some key phrases. First up, the basic one. What exactly is communication?
Well, at its core, communication is just the way we share information, ideas, and emotions with each other. In a workplace, it's the glue that holds everything together, whether it's through emails, meetings, or even quick chats by the coffee machine.
Yeah, and communication can take different forms, right? In a professional setting, we often talk about formal versus informal communication.
Precisely. Formal communication is, structured and tends to follow specific guidelines or, protocols. Think about emails to clients, presentations, or when you're addressing a senior manager. It's respectful, polished, and clear.
Exactly, Emma. Or, rather, spot on. And then we have informal communication, which is more relaxed. This might be the conversations you have with teammates during lunch breaks or quick check-ins with your colleagues. It's less about structure and more about building connections and staying relatable.
Right? But even informal communication in the workplace still has a certain level of professionalism. It's not like chatting with friends outside of work. It's, still respectful and mindful of the environment. Knowing when to be formal and when to loosen up a bit, that is key.
This ability to switch between formal and informal tones based on the situation is what we call workplace communication skills, and mastering that balance can really make a difference in how you're perceived by others at work.
Elements of professional communication.
All right, so let's talk about what makes communication effective in a professional setting. There are 5 main elements that really set the tone for how you come across to others. These are tone, clarity, politeness, conciseness, and confidence.
Yeah, let's start with tone. It's, basically the mood or attitude behind your words. Whether you're upbeat, serious, or, neutral, your tone can totally shape how your message is received. Having the right tone in the workplace can help you come across as respectful and approachable.
Absolutely, Mike. And that leads us to clarity. Clarity is all about making sure your message is easy to understand. It's so important because, in a busy workplace, no one has time to guess what you mean. Clear communication saves time and avoids misunderstandings.
Right, which brings us to politeness. This is more than just saying please and thank you. It's about showing respect and being considerate of others, even if you're handling a tough situation. Politeness helps build good relationships and shows you're approachable.
Exactly. And then there's conciseness. Being concise means saying what you need to say without, unnecessary fluff. In professional settings, it's appreciated because it shows respect for people's time. Think of it as delivering your message in a clear, direct way without losing the important details.
Yes. And finally, confidence. Confidence is key because it shows you believe in what you're saying. Whether you're sharing an idea, leading a meeting, or even just making a simple request, A confident tone makes others more likely to trust and respect what you're saying.
Exactly. And these 5 elements, tone, clarity, politeness, conciseness, and confidence, work together to create effective communication. When you, master these, you're better prepared to handle all kinds of workplace interactions.
Right, so now that we've covered these basics, let's get into some of the professional vocabulary that can really elevate your communication.
Professional vocabulary.
All right, let's talk vocabulary. There are certain words and phrases that, really give your communication a polished, professional edge. These words not only help you sound competent, but also show that you're in tune with the professional language around you.
Exactly, I mean, spot on. Let's start with prioritize. Emma, what does it mean to prioritize?
Well, prioritize is all about focusing on what's most important. So instead of just saying, I'll do that task, you might say, I'll prioritize that task, which shows that you're considering the importance and order of things.
It's like putting that task first before the rest.
Yes. Another good one is align. It's often used to show that you're on the same page with someone else, or that you're working toward a common goal. Like, let's align on our project goals. It's a way of saying, let's make sure we're in sync.
Exactly, or I should say right on target. Then there's actionable. This word is useful when discussing tasks or goals that can actually be acted upon. For example, you might say, let's focus on actionable steps to show that you're thinking practically about what can realistically be done.
And then we have escalate. Now, this one sounds intense, but in a workplace, it often just means bringing an issue to someone's attention at a higher level, like a manager. So instead of saying, I'll tell my manager, you could say, I'll escalate this issue if needed. It sounds more, professional and specific.
Yeah, using these words can definitely help you sound more intentional and focused. Each of these terms, prioritize, align, actionable, and escalate, adds a layer of clarity and professionalism to your language.
And just remember, using these words isn't about trying to sound fancy. It's about making your communication clear and, effective. When used right, they help convey exactly what you mean in a more polished way.
Perfect. So now that we've got some vocabulary in our toolkit, let's move on to specific workplace phrases for different scenarios, like meetings and emails.
So now that we've covered some essential tips and phrases, we're excited to welcome a special guest to the show. Today we have Tony, a communication expert who has, tackled all kinds of challenges in the workplace. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Emma and Mike. It's great to be here. I love talking about communication because, honestly, it's one of those skills that, can make a huge difference in someone's career.
So could you share a bit about your own experiences? Maybe a time when communication made or broke a situation for you at work?
Of course. I remember early in my career there was a situation where I had to present an idea to upper management. I was so focused on, getting every word right that I ended up sounding a bit too stiff. It was a tough lesson in how important it is to not just say the right things, but to, really connect with your audience.
Wow, that's such a great point. It's easy to think it's all about the words, but the way we deliver them matters just as much, if not more.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Over time, I learned to make my communication more conversational, even in formal settings. It helps people feel like they're part of the conversation, rather than just being, talked at. And little things like eye contact and tone really make a difference.
Do you have any specific phrases or approaches that you rely on in tricky workplace situations?
Definitely. I find that using open-ended questions like, how does everyone feel about this approach? Or, what are some other perspectives on this? Really opens up dialogue. It's a way to, make everyone feel valued, which can change the entire mood of a meeting.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing these insights. I think our listeners will really benefit from hearing how real-life experiences shape effective communication.
Totally. And we'll actually have a chance to put some of this into practice with a couple of workplace scenarios we've prepared. So, stick around as we dive into some real-life examples.
Hi, thanks for meeting with me today. I wanted to touch base on the progress of the recent project. I've, made some headway, but I wanted to make sure it's aligning with your expectations.
Of course, how's everything going so far? Any challenges you've encountered?
Yes, a few. I managed to complete the initial stages, but I've noticed that some parts are taking a bit longer than expected. I wanted to get your input on, whether we should adjust the timeline or maybe allocate additional resources.
That's a good call. I appreciate you bringing this up. Let's see if we can find a way to streamline things. Maybe we could prioritize certain sections to keep us on track. How does that sound?
That sounds great. I think focusing on those key areas would definitely help. I'll put more emphasis there and keep you updated.
Perfect. Thanks for staying proactive on this. Let's touch base again next week to see how things are progressing.
All right. I think the employee did a great job of staying respectful and, proactive in that conversation with their boss. Instead of just mentioning the challenges, they offered a possible solution, which shows initiative. What do you think about that approach, Tony?
Oh, absolutely. That's a fantastic approach. Bringing up challenges while suggesting solutions shows a high level of responsibility. And using phrases like aligning with your expectations, that's thoughtful language that demonstrates, real attention to the boss's perspective.
It's almost like the employee is saying, I value your input and I'm committed to making this work.
Right on, Mike.
And they also used professional terms like allocate additional resources, which sound intentional and informed.
It's clear and focused. And did you notice how they checked in with, how does that sound? That's one of those phrases that, really opens up the conversation. It makes the boss feel part of the decision-making process instead of just being told about it.
Exactly. And it's great to see the boss responding with appreciation and support, using phrases like, thanks for bringing this up, and let's prioritize certain sections. Guest's name. Would you say that's a good example of how managers can build rapport?
For sure. Those responses create a positive environment where the employee feels valued and, comfortable bringing up concerns. It's also a reminder that communication is, a two-way street. When managers show appreciation, it encourages openness and honesty.
It's a perfect example of productive dialogue. The employee's honesty combined with the boss's supportive tone is exactly how good workplace communication
Couldn't agree
should
more. And it's not just about saying thank you, but also, really engaging with what the other person is saying. That makes the employee feel heard and valued, which can do wonders for team morale.
Exactly. These are the kinds of interactions that make a workplace feel collaborative and respectful. So, let's keep these reflections in mind as we move on to some practical tips for improving communication at work. All right, let's get into some practical tips for improving communication at work.
Tips to improve effective communication at your workplace.
First up, adapting your communication style. Not everyone responds the same way, so adjusting how you speak depending on who you're talking to can make a big difference.
Right? For example, with a direct manager, you might be a bit more formal, but with teammates, you can be a little more relaxed. It's about reading the room, and tailoring
Absolutely.
your approach.
Adapting isn't about changing who you are. It's about meeting people where they're at. When you adjust your style, it shows that you're flexible and considerate.
And that leads us to asking open-ended questions. Instead of asking something that can be answered with a simple yes or no, try asking questions that invite a more detailed response. It helps you get more insight and encourages others to share.
Exactly. Like saying, what's your perspective on this? Or how would you approach this? It's a great way to build a stronger connection and gather useful feedback.
Spot on. Open-ended questions make conversations more engaging, especially in team settings. People appreciate when you're genuinely interested in their thoughts.
And then, being clear and concise. At work, everyone's busy, so keeping your message straightforward and to the point shows respect for others' time.
Definitely. I'd say clarity is key in every professional interaction. If you can get your point across in fewer words, without losing meaning,
So, Tony,
it's always better.
do you have a few go-to tips for improving communication in a professional setting?
Absolutely. My top 3 would be active listening. Really focus on what the other person is saying without planning your response right away. Second, nonverbal cues. Things like nodding or maintaining eye contact show you're engaged. And third, seek feedback. After a big project or meeting, ask how your communication could improve. It shows a growth mindset.
Great tips. Those 3 really cover the essentials. So let's take these into account as we head into our final thoughts for today's episode.
Tip of the day.
All right, here's our tip of the day. Reading the room. This is all about observing body language and expressions to know when to speak, listen, or adjust your tone.
Exactly. If people are nodding or making eye contact, they're probably engaged. But if they seem distracted, arms crossed, looking away, it might be a cue to keep it brief or re-engage them with a
Absolutely.
question.
Timing is everything. Reading the room helps you know when to introduce ideas or, maybe wait until the energy feels right. And honestly, just taking that extra moment to observe can make you a more effective communicator.
Perfect. Being aware of the room's mood can make a huge difference in how your message lands. All right, let's wrap things up. Today, we covered some powerful tools for effective communication, everything from key phrases and professional vocabulary to reading the room. These are skills that, can make a real difference in how you connect and collaborate with others at work. Give this episode a thumbs up if you found it helpful and share it to that one person you know needs it.
Absolutely. And it's amazing how these little adjustments can help you come across as confident, clear, and considerate. Whether you're in a meeting, writing an email, or just chatting with a teammate, using these techniques can really elevate your presence.
And remember, communication is a skill you keep refining. Every conversation is a chance to practice and improve. Leave us a review in the comments. We love to hear from you. So take these tips, try them out, and see how they impact your work life. And hey, don't forget, effective communication doesn't just boost your career. It also strengthens your relationships with your colleagues.
And with that, thanks for joining us today.
Most importantly, don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss out on the next episode. Until then, keep practicing, keep communicating, and see you in the next episode.